Thomas Jefferson, founding father, author of the Declaration of Independence, and one of the most interesting figures in American history. But what if I told you that Jefferson wasn't just a revolutionary thinker, or just our third president, or just the writer of some of the greatest American thought, but he was also a skeptic, and not just any skeptic, but one whose doubts helped shape the American identity itself. Welcome to Philosophy and Politics Made Simple. I'm your host, Stefan. This video is all about Jefferson and how American skepticism came to be. I wanted to cover Jefferson before we get back into John Locke, because once I cover Jefferson, we can really get into the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the two treatises of government, because they are all kind of intertwined. Jefferson absolutely got many of his ideas from John Locke, most notably the idea that the government only exists to protect the people's rights, and many other ideas which we're going to hear about in this episode. Jefferson lived during the age of Enlightenment, a time of radical questioning. He distrusted dogma, whether religious or political. His skepticism wasn't about rejecting belief. It was just constantly about questioning the status quo. He also had just lived through the Revolutionary War and saw the tyranny of Great Britain firsthand. So boom, he already had two ingredients for the inclination to be skeptical of government. For Jefferson, reason was the ultimate authority. He believed that blind faith, whether in monarchs, religious doctrines, or traditions, and especially government, was dangerous to a free society. Jefferson's skepticism extended to religion. He admired Jesus, not as a divine figure, but as a moral philosopher. He even created his own version of the Bible, cutting out supernatural elements and leaving behind only Jesus' teachings. He famously wrote, "Question with boldness even the existence of God." That wasn't an outright denial of faith, rather a challenge to seek truth through reason, similar to how many other Christian philosophers advocated for testing the truth of Jesus. Jefferson's skepticism wasn't limited to a religion. He was deeply suspicious of all centralized power. Governments could never be trusted blindly. They should be held accountable. This belief laid the foundation for one of the most enduring aspects of American political culture, distrust of the government, or what's commonly known as American skepticism, something which is so different from many European philosophers and the mindset of many in the world today. Talking with Europeans, for example, you will find a value of trusting the government to keep their rights secure instead of making sure they are secure yourself. They inherently believe their government more on all issues. The Federalists naturally had a more European approach in foreign policy at the birth of the nation. They were more pro-Britain and more pro-European thought. They were skeptics of skepticism and were less inclined to be hostile towards the government of the people. Jefferson, on the other hand, feared that unchecked power would always expand at the expense of individual liberties. He saw the government as a necessary evil, one that must be kept in check through constant vigilance. The idea that the government is only in power because the people let it be in power. He championed states' rights, limited federal power, and the idea that citizens should always be skeptical of those in authority. This mindset would later influence everything from the anti-federalist movement and Jeffersonian politics to modern debates about government overreach. This idea of distrust of government led to the creation of the Bill of Rights, guarantee all major American rights today, including the Second Amendment, which Jefferson argued would keep the government in check from tyranny. Jefferson's philosophy of governance extended beyond just limiting federal power. He believed in an active, informed citizenry that would serve as a sort of check on government overreach. To him, the best safeguard against tyranny was not just a set of laws, but a population educated in their rights and responsibilities. Stay in school, kids. He famously advocated for public education, arguing that an enlightened public would be less susceptible to manipulation and more capable of defending their freedoms. His belief in an agrarian democracy or self-sufficient farmers as the backbone of a free republic, although a little outdated, reflected his deep-seated conviction that power should remain as decentralized as possible within central government. Thus, avoiding the corruption he feared would emerge in highly bureaucratic systems, and why he was highly critical of the executive branch and the fourth unofficial branch of government run from the executive, the bureaucracy. Moreover, Jefferson saw skepticism, specifically American skepticism, as a necessary force, not just against external rulers, but within democratic institutions themselves. He believed that political parties, despite their dangers and despite Washington, our first president's belief, were necessary to ensure debate and prevent the consolidation of world power. However, he warned that complacency in government could lead to erosion of liberty, concern that remains relevant today. For example, his distrust of permanent political establishments laid the groundwork for America's constant debates over government accountability, term limits, whether or not someone is too old to run an office, whether or not someone has been in Congress too long, and the role of political movements in shaping national policy. His words remind us that democracy is not self-sustaining. It does require constant questioning, engagement, and a willingness to challenge authority when it strays from his principles. Jefferson's philosophy planted the seeds for what would become a defining characteristic of American identity, a persistent questioning of government authority. From the Whiskey Rebellion of the 1790s to contemporary movements advocating for individual freedoms. And we still see this today. Every day in modern politics, you always hear about someone debating whether or not the government can be trusted. Should the government be trusted? Should the government have more power? Should the government have less power? This isn't really a debate that's held in many nations around the world. America is exceptional in that belief. Today, Jefferson's spirit of skepticism lives on, whether in political discourse, scientific inquiry, or personal belief systems. His legacy reminds us that doubt is not weakness, that questioning isn't a sign of fragileness. It's the foundation of progress, at least here in America. So the next time you cunning libertarians find yourself questioning authority, challenging ideas, or seeking truth through reason, know that you're in good company. After all, Thomas Jefferson was America's first great skeptic and our third president. His mindset literally shaped American values today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode diving into Jefferson's skepticism, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more videos on philosophy and politics made simple.